Hello, 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 hello. I am so excited to be on here. Thank you so much, Eric, for allowing me to have this wonderful opportunity. For those that don't know me, my name is Aja. I'm from Everything Aja right here on YouTube, and I am so excited to be a part of this amazing festival that Eric has here. So, shout out to you. I've been enjoying this entire week. I have been enjoying the week. I know I've been catching in a lot of the other guest appearances that he's had here. So thank you so much for having me on today. And so today we are actually talking about teaching reading without feeling overwhelmed. Dun, dun, dun. And so I will actually share a little bit about myself in a second, and actually my story of how I became the quote unquote reading expert and what it was like growing up. Hello, hello, hello. What it was like growing up for me. And so it's been a journey. Good morning, good morning. Oh, I love it all over the world. For those that don't know, let me introduce myself just a little bit. Hey, Bonnie. I am from the United States. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, within the United States. I know you guys are from all over. I see Honduras. Woo, woo. And so I am from the U.S. and I am so excited to be back on here and just talk to you guys about how to teach reading without ever feeling overwhelmed or burned out. Romania, woo, woo, welcome, welcome. That's so exciting. You guys are gonna make me want to go on vacation. Okay. At the end of this, I feel like I'm going to be wanting to go on vacation. Hello, hello, hello. A little bit about like who I am. I am an educational consultant. In fact, I have been a elementary curriculum specialist for over 6 years. Mexico, whoop, whoop. So I have been doing all sorts of teaching and learning from pre-K all the way through fifth grade. I've been over math, reading, you name it. I've been over that. I've been an administrator. I'm a mom. I've been a teacher. So I've kind of been in every single role. And so that has been so exciting just to kind of see all different aspects of education. Hello, hello. Let's see. We have some new parts. I see Africa, woo, woo, Mexico. I feel like I go to Mexico like every 2 years. We were just in Cancun before then in Cozumel. So shout out to you. Japan. Woo, woo, that's on my to-do list. I told y'all gonna make me want to go on vacation. I love this. Brazil, hello, Peru, yes. So excited to see all of you guys, and so excited to be here all over. Oh, Morocco, Morocco. Oh, I love it. I love it. Also, let me know down below. I know you guys are telling me where you guys are from. Let me know what it is that you teach, and also what is the most difficult or struggling aspect of teaching reading. So as you guys are introducing yourself down below, let me know what do you teach and what is the most difficult or struggling aspect when it comes to teaching reading. I want to know. I want to know. So not only I know where you guys are from, I also know a little bit about your background and what you guys are actually teaching. And so yes, yes, a little bit about my background. I'm gonna go, or you know, you can play it, Eric. In a second, I'm actually gonna share with you my entire story of how it was like, growing up and reading for me, and then kind of how that led me to be where I am today. So today we are talking about teaching reading, and we're going to be actually talking about all different aspects of reading, because reading is so big and it's this big bubble. And when people say reading, you think either people think, just phonics or reading comprehension. But in all actuality, reading entails like so many different things. So we're actually going to be talking about all five pillars of reading and how to teach all five pillars of reading without feeling overwhelmed. Wow. So I see English language and literature. Okay, I love it. I love it. All right, so let's get going. If you haven't already, let me know, what is your name? Look, where are you from? What do you teach? And what is your biggest struggle when it comes to teaching reading? I see I face difficulties while teaching readings as learners get bored. Oh, we're going to address that too. Boredom, that's a good struggle. I like that struggle. I can deal with boredom. I could deal with boredom. We just have to get engaged, but that is a big problem. That is a very common problem. Okay, primary school. Okay, so we have some primary grades there. Whoop, whoop. Like I said, I have literally been over everything from pre-K all the way through fifth grade. I've even taught middle school before as well. And so I've kind of, like I said, I've taught this wide range, and I've also been in every single role. So once again, even as I start to share my story, let me know, what do you teach and what is your biggest struggle when it comes to teaching reading, because I want to at least address the struggles that you guys are the biggest struggles that you guys are having. All right, you're from Egypt. Whoop, whoop. You believe that the most difficult part of teaching reading is to get the students engaged during the reading lessons. That's a good one. So that really almost goes hand in hand with the kids being bored. So awesome. Engagement, especially when kids don't like reading, right? Like, do you guys have any kids that just do not like to read? Have anybody like, yep, my kids do not like to read. They do not like it. As soon as it's time to read, they're like, oh, I am tapped out. Well, this was me. This was the young version of me. This is actually me at 7 years old. And when I was actually learning how to read, I was taught via memorization. That was right around the time where sight words were just coming out, and all the teachers assumed that it was best for kids to learn how to read based on memorization. And so here I was, this young, excited little girl, excited to want to read, and I was taught to memorize words. Well, I did very well with that. I was memorizing those sight words left and right, and I thought I did pretty well in reading. I loved to read. I was excited to read all the way until I reached middle school. I know y'all don't talk about my middle school pictures now, but when I hit middle school, everything changed for me when it comes to teaching reading. In fact, oh my goodness. Do anybody remember the popcorn way of reading, where a teacher makes every single child read out loud to the other kids in the class? Oh my goodness. I was dreading being called. Like, oh, it was terrifying. And I began to hate to read. Whoop, whoop. I began to absolutely hate to read. And I never forget that my mom would just yell at me, sound it out, baby, sound it out, sound it out, sound it out. Well, I didn't know how to sound out words. I struggled when it came to sounding out words. And I went from that little girl that liked to read to being this middle schooler who absolutely hated to read. I see you guys are saying the kids just don't like reading. So hey, we are right there. I was that child, Cynthia. I was that child that began to not like to read. And for you, English may be your kid's second language. For me, English was my primary language, but I didn't learn how to read properly. And so I struggled drastically with understanding how to sound out words. You say you used to count the paragraphs until your turn. Come on, Monica. All right, somebody's with me. I mean, the whole time other kids were reading, I spent the entire time just like looking in the book, trying to like piece together each part of the words in the paragraph. I was not paying attention to anything those other kids were talking about. Like, all I was doing was trying to make sure that I wasn't embarrassed when it became my time. That's all I was doing. And I was that child. You said I teach English language. Ooh, your biggest issue is dealing with primary and secondary school. Oh, pronunciation. You said in Romania you read the same way as you write. Okay. Okay, we can definitely talk about that. Definitely talk about that. Learning language as a second language for kids. Absolutely, it's hard. And one thing, let's like when I just shared with my story, growing up, I didn't learn correctly. So imagine a child that's learning English as a second language, and then it's taught in a way that is not, best practice. And so now they have to almost like unlearn things that they've learned, and they already have some gaps. And you could only imagine what they are going through in their cognitive, development. You said most teachers encounter lots of obstacles when tackling reading. Come on, this is because most students don't possess accurate strategies. Woo, yes, as to deal with reading comprehension. Oh, yes, reading comprehension and strategies to teach reading comprehension. That is right up my alley. But yes, most teachers, I mean, you said it correctly. Most teachers don't have, they aren't equipped in order to handle teaching reading. Even that one of my specialties is, and I'm gonna finish my story in a second, but one of my specialties is teaching children who struggle with reading, because I can relate to that child. Like I'm sharing now, I was that child. And because I was that child, I understand what that child is going through. I've been the struggling reader. I've been that kid that every time it's time to read, I'm terrified because I don't know the words on the page. I was that child. And so now, helping struggling children, that's my jam. But it is true, we they have to like kind of unlearn some things that they learned. Yes, learning to unlearn. All right, Cynthia said they're also very shy. Come on now, they're so afraid of, ooh, yes. Yet my daughter is the same way. She's so shy when it comes to like mispronouncing. They're like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. I want to make sure I'm doing it perfect. And I love that you said you're always encouraging them. Yes, yes, yes. Starting to say that neither of us were born reading. Come on now, science of reading right in there. Perfectly in English. The first language is in Spanish. Absolutely. And I've taught, a lot of children that were learning English as a second language. And you're right, that whole like, I want to say it right or do it right, that becomes a drastic fear. And so part of that, I do want to encourage you, is just to keep letting them know that it is a risk-free environment, and allow children to have the room and the space to take chances. One thing that I know I always do is just that classroom environment. Like, it's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes. If you can keep pointing out how many mistakes you make, then they'll feel more comfortable making mistakes. And so they won't be as, focus on being perfect or being right. Hey, Keisha. Focus on being perfect or being right as they start to want to start taking chances. He said you have students that are learning English as a second language as well, who look at the first letters and then guess the word. How can you help them? Ooh, that's a good one, Joyce. Ooh, that's a good one. Really, really do more. And we're going to talk about the 5 pillars of reading and things you can do with that. But you really want to do more basic, explicit phonics instruction, because what they're doing, same thing most kids do. That's normal. That's normal. But in a second, when we get to phonics, I'll hit that. I'll hit you, even further. But more phonics based activities, and even phonological awareness, just dealing with sounds. If they're not seeing the letters, that will help them, greatly, because phonological awareness is just dealing with sounds. And like I said, we're about to hit all 5 pillars of reading, y'all. So I hope you are ready. You are ready. You are ready. All right. All right. So this was me in middle school, not liking how to read. In fact, I began to hate it. And like I said, that was me. Eventually, I ended up going to college, graduated with honors, and I began to have my own way of reading. That worked for me. Hey, I'm grown at this point, and I got my first job student teaching in first grade. And they were actually learning to read on using a basal program. And what a basal program is a book that you follow, like a curriculum, and every single word that you say is in that book. You don't say anything else. you don't put your own twist to the lesson. You say exactly what that book tells you to say. Do I have anybody that's following like a Basil program? Like there's no room to make it your own. You have to follow everything that they say. And here I was, student teaching. This was my first year right out of college, and I'm learning how to read by teaching these little children how to read. And I was sitting here in this classroom, reading the book, teaching my kids, and I'm learning stuff. Like I never learned, phonics growing up, and I was like, "Whoa, vowel, consonant, vowel," and I'm learning all of this stuff as a 20-year-old woman teaching these little 7-year-olds, and they know how to read better than I know how to read. And so I took all of that. I became a sponge. I mean, we were learning together, y'all. I became a sponge and just started soaking up all the knowledge that they had. And then I went in on and I taught pre-K, and that was great all the way until I got my first official public school job teaching fifth grade. And when I went from teaching pre-K to teaching fifth grade, it was on, y'all. And so I feel like this was my first year teaching all over again, because here I was dealing with struggling readers. See, before, when you're teaching like pre-K or primary, they're coming in as a blank slate. So what you teach them is pretty much all they know. But now I was teaching fifth grade, and I was dealing with students who were all like years below grade level. And my administrator came in and she saw me teach a 10-minute reading lesson, and she goes, "Oh, you're teaching reading next year." And I was like, "Wait, what? Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, reading is not my jam. I'm a math girl. I want to teach math. Why are you having me teaching reading? I don't want to teach reading. I want to teach math." And she was like, "Nope, next year you're teaching reading, period." So here I was, second year teaching, and I'm now having to teach reading. Dun dun dun. I had two groups of reading classes. So it was a total of 44 children. The first week of school, they do their diagnostic. Oh my goodness, I looked over their scores, y'all. Fifth grade, mind you. The highest reading level that I had in my classroom was second grade. All of my kids were either kindergarten, first grade, or second grade reading level. And I never forget the moment I just stood there. And it was the first week of school, and I just looked at them. I'm looking at their data, and all I could see was the struggling reader, just like me, just being passed along year after year after year, and that gap never closed. Here they were in fifth grade, but yet they still can't read a Cat in the Hat book because nobody ever took the time out to go back and read, teach them those basic skills. And they were just getting passed along year after year after year after year. And so that year, I did everything it took to not only get my kids to want to read, but to get them to fall in love with reading. And I found out how, when you make reading fun, how you get kids to buy in. A lot of you guys were saying that a biggest struggle that you had was getting kids to want to read. I teach in the state of Georgia in the U.S. So I am in Georgia in the U.S. And so that's literally what I learned is, okay, if I can make reading fun and just make it exciting, then they will want to read. And that was the biggest struggle that I learned that kids had. But however, in doing that, I worked myself like to the bone. I was so overwhelmed every single day, staying at school all the way to the custodians kicked us out. Absolutely. That's another way getting them. I do a lot of that, getting children to want to read, and that's one, finding books that they are interested in. And so I was very overwhelmed that year, but it paid off. At the end of the year, my administrators came and they told us in a faculty meeting that every single one of my children passed the state standardized test. All of them. Mind you, they started off at kindergarten, first grade reading level. And now here they were passing the fifth grade reading test on a fifth grade reading level. And they were so proud of themselves. And I realized that year that I had something. I had a trick, and I had something something that needed to be shared with other teachers. And what I had was systems of getting struggling readers to want to read, systems of getting struggling readers to go back and close those gaps in. But here I was stressed out and overwhelmed. And so what I did, I took all of that knowledge and I started making my reading instruction run on autopilot. And that led me into my next years of teaching and eventually being an administrator and where I am today, helping other teachers all around the world have teaching systems that get children that don't like reading, get children that struggle with reading, excited to read, but that also leave adults and teachers not overwhelmed and not feeling frustrated. So if you missed it, my name is Aja. I'm an educational consultant. I have taught kindergarten. I've been a kindergarten through fifth grade curriculum specialist. That just means I'm an administrator over everything teaching and learning. You name it, I've been over it from pre-K all the way through fifth grade. I have over 10 plus years of experience in Title I schools. Here in the US, a Title I school is just a school that all the kids, or I was at 100% Title I school, meaning that all the kids were on free and reduced lunch and they were pretty much in poverty environments or social economic limited environments. And so typically those kids are behind reading level because of the lack of resources. And I also have a reading endorsement as well. So I am pro reading. My mission is to help over 500 plus teachers and even homeschool moms, I do both, create a life that they enjoy by helping them teach reading without ever feeling overwhelmed. I help teachers go from feeling burned out and overwhelmed to making a bigger impact in children, having more free time for their personal time, feeling confident when it comes to reading, and feeling prepared to teach struggling readers. So today we're going to talk about teaching reading, all 5 pillars of reading without ever feeling overwhelmed. And so I want to share with you some interesting facts that you may or may not know. 60% of kids are considered not ready to start kindergarten. 60% of kids, meaning that they are not cognitively ready to handle the curriculum of kindergarten. So when they're entering kindergarten, they're already behind the ball game when they first start school. 2 out of every 10 children enter kindergarten with skills 2 or 3 years below their grade level, meaning they're starting off behind. So we're already starting them at a disadvantage. Another 2 out of every 10 children start school with at least a 1 year disadvantage. So this happens before they even hit our classrooms. This happens just from the home environment of not being exposed to text, not being exposed to English, just like most of you guys whose kids are learning English as a second language. So because they are already starting school off with that disadvantage, it's harder for you to catch them up and it's harder for them to catch up. And in fact, students who are behind typically only make 1 year's worth of progress at each grade level, meaning that you're going to constantly be behind their classmates throughout school, making it more likely for them to then repeat grades. So then that makes you think, okay, well, how can we get out this cycle? We don't just want to keep passing kids along year after year after year. How can we change this cycle? How do we break free from this cycle going over and over and over again? Well, I want you to think about that one thing that you hate. What is that one thing that you hate? Drop it down below in the chat box. For me, it is cooking and working out. Those are my 2 things. Look, I gave you two. Cooking and working out. Then I want you to just take a second, think about what is that thing that you absolutely hate doing. You despise it. You don't want to do it. What is that thing for you? Like I said, for me, it's cooking. Not saying I'm a bad cook. I just hate doing it. I don't like doing it. I would rather go out to eat, get some food ordered. I don't like to do it. So what is that thing that you hate doing? Monica said cooking. All right, girl. We are together. We do not. We don't want to be in the kitchen. You said don't like to cook. All right, come on now. That is my thing, cooking and working out. Cooking and working out. Well, I want you to imagine just for a second that one thing that you are saying you don't like to do. You said doing meaningless work. Oh, I forgot about that one. I don't like doing that either. I do not like doing that either. Oh, you said ironing clothes, mopping floors. Oh, yes, Katina. Ironing, mopping floors. Look, y'all making my list go longer too. I'm like, yep, don't like all house chores except for cooking. Oh, Cynthia, you the opposite. You like to cook. We need you in our house. Joy said cooking. All right, now, come on. Look, there's a lot of us not wanting to be in the kitchen. I see. I'm not alone with that. So, and I know y'all have some more, so just keep dropping them down below in the chat box. That one thing that you just hate doing. So now I want you to imagine if you had to do that one thing. Or you said paperwork. Oh, come on now. I want you to imagine if you had to do that thing, that same thing you just dropped down below in the chat box that you hate doing. Imagine doing that thing 3 times every single day. Every single day. Imagine cooking every single day, 3 times a day. Or if you're already doing it 3 times a day, I want you to imagine doing it 6 times a day. Double however many times you normally do it. Imagine having to, Katina, imagine having to iron clothes all day long. Imagine their entire day being filled with the very thing that you hate doing. Doing meaningless work all day long, every day. Doing paperwork all day, every day. Imagine doing that one thing that you hate all day long. Can y'all imagine that? Drop an emoji down below. How would you feel if you had to do that very thing all day long? Unfortunately, this is how our children feel that are struggling readers. This is how our children feel that are learning English as a second language, and it is difficult. They are doing the one thing that they hate doing, the one thing that they're frustrated with all day long. And here we are in front of their faces, like, come on, you can do it. And they hate doing it. And so, one thing I realized when it comes to struggling readers is you have to break that barrier down first. That if you can just break that barrier down, you will see a drastic improvement. That if you can get your students to go from hating to reading to loving to read, and that gap is closed, then their buy-in will be drastically greater. So you want to know how I got my struggling fifth graders to all pass that state standardized test. This was the first barrier that I had to break, and it is the biggest barrier. And that is to make reading exciting, to turn the very thing that that child hates to do to loving doing. That's the first gap. That's the first barrier. That's the gap. Having them go from, no, I don't want to do it, to, oh, yeah, it's time to read. Come on, let's go. The other gap is the teacher gap. So having you go from having all of these and things that you have to do, y'all know, come on now, we have so many things that we have to do, to enjoying doing and just spending time doing the teaching, like not doing the paperwork, not worried about all the initiatives we have to do from our administration, but just being allowed to just teach, right? And so you have those two gaps, one on the child and one on you. And this is the solution. The solution is getting kids to love to read without you ever feeling overwhelmed. How would you feel if I could tell you that at the end of this training that you'll have some tricks and strategies of getting kids to love to read without you actually feeling overwhelmed? Give me an emoji. How would you feel if you had that secret to doing that? If you knew exactly how to get them excited to read without you feeling overwhelmed? It's a win-win situation. He said, on your own, you are trying to learn English as a second language. Man. You said you will feel fed up. You end up feeling fed up with, yep. And so this is a solution. And this is the biggest struggle, especially if you have children that don't like to read. If you're dealing with children who are starting to read and they're struggling reading, this is the key. You're wanting to get them to buy into reading. And so the biggest thing you can do is make reading exciting for them. The more you make reading exciting for them, the more that they will want to read. So I want you to just rate yourself on a few things. You're going to drop 1, 2, 3, or 4 down below in the chat box. I see the woo woo excited emojis. Awesome, awesome. And so how I want to know, how confident are you teaching basic phonics skills to your students? How confident are you teaching things like letter to sound correlation? Are you one, not confident at all? Two, somewhat confident? Three, you're very confident. Hey, you have this. Or you four, are you above average? I see a one coming in. Okay, not confident at all. All right. Hey, that's honest. Hey, that was me. Hello, hello. You're not by yourself. I'm sure we have some more ones out there. But how confident are you when it comes to teaching basic phonics skills? That's the sound to letter correspondence. I see some more ones. I see some twos. I see some somewhat confidence. All right. You, not confident at all. All right. You're attempting to teach your own child. Send help. Hey, I told you I do homeschool and teachers. Come on now. Yes, yes, yes. All right. All right, so we have some that are not confident. Okay, I also see a 3, 4 in there. Been teaching primary for a while. All right, next question. Next question. I see two with lower grades, but with upper grades one. Okay, that's another good break. Hello from Morocco. Hello, hello. All right, now I want to ask you, how confident are you teaching vocabulary? I know a lot of you guys are coming maybe with an ESOL background or ELL background, teaching English as a second language. So now, how confident are you with teaching vocabulary to your students? You said you're a 3 now, but you were 1 7 months ago. Come on, teaching by design was a game changer. Yes, Keisha. Woo woo! So excited that I can be an assistant from you going from a 1 to a 3. That's exciting. That is exciting. So let me know, how confident are you with teaching vocabulary? Vocabulary. All right, very good. Okay, I see more threes now with vocabulary. So this is more of you guys' thing. But the reason why some kids are struggling is because they need all the different pillars. So we're gonna talk about that. All right, one more. How confident are you when it comes to teaching reading comprehension? Like getting children to understand what it is they read. So a lot of you guys are very confident when it comes to vocabulary. I see a lot of fours, threes. I see some twos. All right, so let's think about reading comprehension. Reading comprehension. Say your teacher taught reading in front of the class, and now you love reading. Woo, woo, awesome. You teach English almost all day long now. Come on, yes, yes. You said where you can find people to practice speaking. Awesome. All right, so I see some threes and some twos. Okay, so we're kind of in the middle when it comes to reading comprehension. It looks like we're in the middle when it comes to reading comprehension. All right, so we can say that vocabulary was you all strength, right? But do you have struggling readers? Well, this is why, because there are 5 pillars when it comes to literacy. And children, in order to be a proficient reader, they need all 5 pillars of reading. And so the 5 pillars of reading consist of phonological awareness, and that's dealing with sounds, the sounds that you hear. Phonics, that deals with sound letter correspondence. Fluency, that means how quickly and accuracy a child is when it comes to reading. There's also vocabulary fluency, letter fluency. Then there's also vocabulary. Seems like that y'all's jam. Whoop, whoop. Of course, I kind of knew that. That's why I threw that in there. And then there's comprehension. What is that? That is more of the end goal, the end result. Because if you can understand the other things, then reading comprehension should be second nature, right? Yes. All right, so we're going to break down all 5 pillars of reading, and I'm going to just share with you some tips and strategies of how you can, one, get your students and those struggling readers excited to read for that pillar of reading without you ever feeling overwhelmed. So I'm going to teach you some ways of doing that without the overwhelming feeling, right? Because having all of these five pillars all the time can be frustrating. You're dealing with sounds, you're dealing with sound to letter corresponding, you're dealing with fluency, you're dealing with vocabulary, you're dealing with comprehension, and it can be a lot on you the same way it can be a lot on your children, right? Hello, hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here you said, cool lesson. Awesome, awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying. I'm glad you're enjoying. Well, the first pillar of reading is phonological awareness. And unfortunately, this seems to be the pillar that we so often leave off, especially when it comes to struggling readers. And the thing is, they can't get to words and understanding that if they're lacking sounds. If they don't understand sounds, then this is why they don't understand phonics. And then that's why they don't understand vocabulary. And then that's why they can't read unknown words. And then that's why they can't comprehend what they read. Y'all following that? It's almost like a domino effect. It's literally a domino effect. Um, Oh, you said you struggle with comprehension, but thanks for this tutorial. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad I can help. Glad I can help. All right. So, phonological awareness deals with the ability to one, recognize, and two, manipulate the spoken parts of sentences and words. So, if you guys have a child that is struggling, a lot of you guys said they're struggling learning, English as a second language, leave the books alone for a second and focus on sounds first. Because if they get more fluent with sounds, then when you then put those sounds to letters and you start to show them words, it will be easier for them to be able to understand that because they've already mastered sounds. Okay. And so let me show you exactly how you can do this. You want to use 5-minute warm up activities with students. All it takes is 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day can make a whirlwind of difference with children. And so you can ask verbal questions such as, how many syllables are in the word catfish? And they're expected to say, catfish. And you break down, how you can find out the syllables, but you're never showing them the word catfish. Remember, this is all verbal. And so they're not seeing anything. All they are seeing is your mouth move and they're listening to you. So, how many syllables are in the word catfish? Blend the following sounds together. K, at, k, at, k, at. And have them start to blend the sounds together just by listening. We're not looking at letters. They're just listening to you say k, at. Then if they're still not getting it, you can start blending for them until they naturally pick it up. Cat, cat, cat. Cat. Awesome. Keep doing that until they start to hear that light bulb go off, right? Also, another thing, you can do rhyming words, and all of this is completely verbal. Name a word that rhymes with cat. See if they can give you rhyming words that rhyme with the word cat. Okay. And this allows children to manipulate sounds and to be able to deal with syllables and parts of speech. Not only can you do verbal activities to teach phonological awareness, but you can also show them pictures. So, for example, if you show them a picture of a cat, then you can ask, what sounds do you hear in the word cat? And now they're expected to break down the sounds that they hear in the word cat. That's the first sound. Ah, that's the second sound. That's the third sound. So they hear at. Good. So they broke down the sounds in the word cat, and all you did was show them a picture of a cat and said that you said that sentence. Another thing you can ask them is, what is the initial sound in the word cat? When I say initial, that also means first. And so you can, teach them those two terminologies. So what is the first sound in the word cat? Of course, they're expected to say k. Another prompt you can say, replace. This is a more difficult prompt. So once they really started to master some of those other ones, you can then say things like, okay, now I want you to replace the k sound in the word cat with the r sound, what new word would you have? So now they're having to manipulate sounds and replace the k sound with the r sound, making the new word rat. So that's a more advanced skill right there. But these are just ways of getting children to master phonological awareness, and you can do that with simply 5 minutes a day. That's all you need. You're not doing all of it every day. You're just asking, one or two prompts. I always teach a lot of my clients to do three different prompts a day, very, very quick and simple. But the more you do it, the more children will be getting used to actually manipulating sounds. And so then when you see the sounds with letters and the sounds with coming up with unknown words, it's easier for them to do it. And so let's keep going. All right, so the next pillar of reading after you deal with sounds is connecting sounds with letters. And this is a method of teaching people to read by correlating sounds with letters or groups of letters in the alphabetic principle. And so what you're doing is connecting those sounds with letters. So once children master sounds, they'll easier it'll be easier for them to then put those sounds with letters because they can manipulate sounds. So now when you put those letters in front of them, they can read a lot faster because they already know how to manipulate sounds. So when they see now a C, an A, and a T, they can immediately go at cat simply because they are used to their sounds. And so that's why each one of these pillars build upon one another. All right, let me tell you how to do this without feeling overwhelmed. One way to do this is getting your children excited to want to learn about letter sound recognition. And you can do that by doing rinse and repeat letter sound games and activities. And what I mean by when I say rinse and repeat, these are games. I know Eric does a lot of games. I do a lot of games, and we do games that you can reuse per skill. So you can literally have different games and just keep changing out the skill. As kids learn new letters or new sounds or new blends, they are just doing the same games with a new skill. So let me know, do you have a bank of rinse and repeat games and activities? These are games that you play right now with your children that you can literally do no matter if you're teaching the CH sound or the B sound, and no matter what you're teaching, you already kind of have a bank of games that work for children that they're excited about. I know this whole entire teacher series kicked off, and Eric was on here talking about 60 really exciting games, classroom games, and so y'all know y'all have some games in your tool belt. But one way to get children excited about learning all of these new sounds is through games. I told you I have to get their buy-in first. And then in order for you not to be stressed out, you use that same rinse and repeat system of teaching games with your children. And so one game, I'm not going to do a whole bunch of games, but I will do some games. This is one of my favorite games because it is very interactive and gets kids kind of moving. But you just simply put like flashcards on different buckets, and then you intentionally tell. You can do letter sounds. So for example, you guys see the sounds, and actually these are my flashcards that I sell. But you can do letter sounds, meaning I can say what sound makes the sound, and children are expected to all throw either balls or bean bags into the bucket that makes the sound, and I'm telling them what sound to go for. Do it again. Which letter makes the sound, and they will throw their balls into that sound. You can also do letter recognition. I would say L, and now they have to find L by throwing their ball or beanbag into that particular ball. You can also, if you don't have balls or beanbags, get a sheet of paper. Each child gets to ball it up, and that's their ball. Bing. Um, they all line up on one side. And then they'll have the buckets that they can aim for. And then you can do the same game if you're teaching blends. You would have the blend card, and I actually have blend cards. You would do blends or digraph or vowel teams. And what I mean by blends, meaning the CH sound, that's a blend. That blend makes the ch sound. And so as children start to progress along the phonics spectrum, they're playing the same game, but the skill changes. Another game that you can do that works the same way is a very interactive game I do. I put flashcards and put them around on the floor and give children actions because y'all know they like to move, they like to move, they like to do things. And so the flashcards around on the floor, and they're expected to do whatever action you say. So if I say run, I would never say run. I'd probably say like tiptoe, walk backwards, crawl. Because if you tell a whole bunch of kids to run, just expect some accidents, okay? But you can tell them to run to that letter or that letter sound, just like the beanball, just like the beanbag toss. For this game, they're actually physically moving to that letter sound or that letter that you said, or that digraph, or that vowel team. So the same game, but the game stays the same, but the skill changes as children start to master those sounds and letters. Another thing you can do is a scavenger hunt. Whoop, whoop. I love a good scavenger hunt. Do I have anybody else that loves a good scavenger hunt? Baby, I love scavenger hunts. But you can do the same thing, and children have to find either the letter that makes that sound, or letter recognition, or the digraph, or vowel teams. So a vowel team would be EA, because that vowel team would make the E sound the same way EE would make that same vowel team. And so you would use these same games, but you're just changing out the skill. And so, one, kids are getting their buy-in. Remember, the biggest struggle is to get them to want to read. And so as they start to master these sounds in a very fun, exciting way, they'll start to be excited when it's time to read. And so now you can kind of amp it up a little bit, right? And so now when you're ready, during vocabulary time, and ideally you're teaching all these pillars every single day, and it really also depends on what grade level you guys are teaching as well, because of course if you're more primary grade, you're probably doing a lot more phonemic awareness and phonics than people are in upper grades. But all children need it, especially if you're dealing with children who are struggling readers. And so when it comes to vocabulary, now those are just simply the words we need to know in order to understand what we read. And so a lot of you guys did the assessment, and you said vocabulary was your thing. You had vocabulary. But with vocabulary, that is simply understanding the what you actually read, understanding the words. And to teach vocabulary in a very rinse and repeat way, you would do the same thing we just did with phonics. You would use rinse and repeat games and activities to teach prefixes and suffixes, content, vocabulary, meaning that if you're going over a science book, you're going to want to preview that vocabulary first and get kids familiar with that vocabulary before you start to really dive into that book. And you guys are probably experts at that, since vocabulary is your thing. But and even high frequency words, those are best known as sight words, a lot of people call them. But high frequency words are just words that we find often in our texts, that are most high frequency words make up 70% of the words that children read. And so sight words are words that children know by sight. So that is the difference between the two. But if you can use rinse and repeat activities, this gets children more familiar with the vocabulary without you feeling overwhelmed. One thing you can do is the game match. I love the good game match. You said awesome topic. Whoop, whoop, glad, glad. But one thing with vocabulary, you could teach prefix and suffix, especially for children that are struggling readers or learning English as a second language. I have drastically increased reading levels with children just by having teachers really hone in on prefixes and suffixes, especially in upper grades, because as children start to understand and the meaning of a prefix and the meaning, like, and how the suffix changes the root word, then when they run across unknown words in text, they'll learn how to master the meaning of that word a lot quicker simply because they understand the meaning of the prefix. So if you did a match game, they're matching that prefix with the meaning. Or the suffix with what the suffix does to the root word. Another thing, they could just match high frequency words. So they're matching, the word the with the, or best known as, even the Dolch and Fry sight word list. Another thing you can do, I sell all of these, or sight word digital games. In fact, I've actually created a ton of done for you games dealing with simply Dolch and Fry sight word games. And all you have to do is hit play. But this just allows children to play games and start to get more familiar with those high frequency words, those sight words that they see over and over and over again. Not only that, but they come with a data tracking sheet so that as kids start to master those high frequency words, they'll start to have those in their tool belt. But this is just to get them more familiar with practicing using those words. And our next pillar is fluency. Fluency is simply the ability to read accurately and quickly. Very simple, but it's one of those things that is often forgotten all about. So I want you to give me either thumbs up or a thumbs down below in the chat box. Very helpful. Oh, yay, West Africa. Yes, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Do your students intentionally track their fluency? Do you do something when it comes to fluency? Okay, well, as you guys answer that question, I'm about to answer her question. You said my question for you is, how do you inspire the children to read books rather than scrolling on their phones? As time has changed, so has the educational system. Absolutely, absolutely. And games, games. So I start off, and in a second we'll get to reading comprehension, because that's dealing with more books. But I start off with games. Like, how I'm teaching you guys how to get them excited to want to do it is through games. The more they have fun doing it, the easier it is to then get them to tackle those more difficult tasks, right? The sitting down, reading the book. Also, asking questions. I actually teach a lot of my clients how to have a bank of questions that you can use for any book. That way you don't have to like think when you have books. So never just start. Let me get a book. I almost broke that down. So, like, let's say I was teaching Pete the cat. So I wouldn't just start off teaching the book. I'm going to get them excited. I'm going to get them engaged. He says, okay, more power to you. Thank you. And so having the list of engaging questions to read before you start reading, during your read. So, like, we're asking questions before we read. We're in the middle of the book asking more questions. We're at the end of the book asking more questions. And then in a second, we're going to talk about reading comprehension. And then we're taking those same things and we're playing games, learning, like, correlating with what we read, and like having this bank of games and activities. Like I'm telling you guys, you don't have to think twice because you already have things that work for them. They're already used to, doing those things, and they'll start to like to read. They won't find reading as difficult if they master their sounds and they master word parts and they start to master these things. Then when they get to reading a text on grade level, or reading let me get this, a more difficult text, or maybe even, these are more worksheets, but like, let's say they were reading, this type of text, even though it's only a few sentences, they'll be able to do this simply because, one, you've gotten their buy-in. They like reading at this point. They like it. You're the fun teacher now. But not only that, you have already kind of like broken it down and given them everything that they needed first. Another thing you can do, we just talked about vocabulary. So let's say you were about to see their reading comprehension or track something, like using the note, you're wanting them to read that. Well, you can literally play a game using some of the more difficult words in this passage. Play a game first, before they even start to read. As you're playing the game, they'll start to read those words. They'll get excited. They're like, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And then after that game, all right, now you've already shown me that you guys know how to read these words. You've been an expert at reading these words and playing these games. Now, bang, bang, bang. I want to see if you guys can find those words as we read the note. You get what I'm saying? And now they're more excited to read because you've already done the hard part. And so now the text is more doable for them because remember that thing that we hate, they're doing the one thing that they may not like to do, right? Um, he said they don't even realize whatever they improve any of their skills. Come on now, they have to. When we approve one, we're approving them all. And so I saw a lot of thumbs down. Somebody did thumbs down that they do not intentionally track fluency. One thing when you leave here, I need that to change. Fluency is one of the biggest pillars that's so often left behind simply because so many teachers are not intentional with it, and it's so simple. And fluency, like we said, is just the ability to get children to read accurately and with expression and quickly. And so you can do a fluency weekly or daily intentional 5 minute fluency practice. I always teach my clients to do once a week for 5 minutes, just once a week for 5 minutes. That's all you need. Once a week, 5 minutes during that week. But this will allow your children to to feel more confident in and of themselves. And so they will feel confident when it comes to reading. They are can physically see themselves getting better at reading. And so what you will do during those 5 minutes a week, I mean, if you have 5 minutes a day, so be it. Hey, you superstar. You said love the game as a warmer. Awesome, awesome. But just with 5 minutes a week, have them track how many correct words per minute they read. Okay. So what you do is set a timer for 1 minute. You can have, if you have like a whole classroom, have the kids partner, A, B partners. One partner is A, one partner is B. You said you can also give them a bank of words which they can complete. Yep, yep, yep. Absolutely, absolutely done that as well. Um, but with tracking fluency, have them as A B partners if you have an entire class. If you just had a few, then you can just time them all at the same time. But then set a timer for 60 seconds. They have to read at their reading level, read a passage. So it's not grade level, this is at their reading level. At the end of the 60 seconds, or when your timer goes off, then the second partner is just calculating how many words that other partner just read correctly. It's not about how many total words they read, it's how many words they read correctly. Now, they're not trying to beat a number, they might only be at five, and that's okay. That's okay. You read five correct words per minute. Then on the sheet, they just highlight and circle five, and that's it. Then the next Friday, they do it again, or the next week, they do it again. Okay. And you tell them that they are just trying to improve. They're trying to beat their own score. They're not worried about anybody else's score. They are only trying to beat their own score. So, what this does is it builds the confidence within your struggling reader. They start to physically see, they start to physically see how they've been improving. And over this fluency tracker is 6 weeks. Over 6 weeks, they'll see how they've improved with their reading. They'll be able to see, like, oh my goodness, I am, reading better. They'll say, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I went from 5 to 10. I went from 20 to 30. And they can drastically now see the chart of how they've improved. And then you can take it even a step further by getting children to want to set their goals. All right, at the end of the 6 weeks, how many words per minute do you want to read? Where would you want to be? And have them set their goal. And then at the end of those 6 weeks, give them a reward to get them to want to do this all over again. And this is one of my fluency packages that I sell, just to get children to want to read, to get you the equipment. All you need is 5 minutes a week. That's all you need. 5 minutes a week. That's all you need. 5 minutes a week. That's all it takes. Just that. And you will start to see one, their confidence will increase. Earlier on, somebody said that one of their struggle was dealing with students that felt shy, that didn't like reading. A lot of that is that internal struggle. Well, you can't really do much but this, getting them to want to read, getting them to feel confident in their ability to read, right? The last pillar, certainly not the least, is comprehension. And I see a lot of you guys have been dropping comprehension. Whoop, whoop. And comprehension is just the understanding and interpretation of what is read. So as you know, children read, as you read, they start to comprehend what is happening in the story. And so just like with phonics and just like with vocabulary, you can use a rinse and repeat system of games and activities to teach standards. Yes, with reading comprehension. With reading comprehension, you can do the same exact thing. And so I'm going to teach you how to do it. Earlier, I asked if you had a bank of already rinse and repeat games. If you already had, some sort of bank of games, right? Well, you can use the same bank of games even when it comes to reading comprehension. Have you guys, raise a hand, have you ever taught reading with games? With games? Probably not. Most people don't. Most people do not. um but you can do this with reading comprehension. You absolutely, absolutely, absolutely can. And so let me here we go. All right, so I actually have a game guide that can start you off with your bank. For those of you guys that do not have a bank of already kind of done games, this can start you off at least. This is the like a lesson plan guide. It just has three games that you can use for any standard, especially when it comes to reading comprehension, and with any workbook or worksheet or so forth. So what you do is you have your bank, you find a rinse and repeat game that you already like. One of my favorite games is Four Corners. Very simple. You put a letter in each corner of the room, so you have A, B, C, and D around the room, and then children will go around the room until their designated place for the answer. Well, then you find a multiple choice worksheet on the skill. So I use readworks.org. If you've never been on readworks.org, it is amazing and it is free. Whoop, whoop. So it is amazing and it is free. Find a worksheet on the skill that you are working on. So if you're working on, main idea or theme, whatever it is that you're working on, you're going to find a worksheet on that. Now it's going to be a multiple choice worksheet because the game says multiple choice. Then you are going to play the game using the worksheet. So before you even play the game, the kids read the passage. So they read the passage, but in order to answer those questions, they're playing the four corner games. As the kids are playing the four corner game, then you're taking notes on which questions they're getting right and which questions they're getting wrong. And now you kind of know, where they are. You have a pretty good idea of what they have right, what they would need to struggle on. But it made reading comprehension fun, and it wasn't just sitting down doing a workbook. It wasn't sitting down doing a worksheet. They got to get up and interact with the worksheet. They got to move around, and you got to sit there and analyze exactly how they were doing that. You say, you're here, love ReadWorks. Awesome, awesome. And I would love to, those are all five pillars of reading and how you can teach those five pillars of reading. So we've gone over all of them: sounds, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, reading comprehension. And I would love to even get to know you guys even further. You said excellent. Thank you so much. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You can definitely keep in touch. This my Instagram. I'm right here on YouTube at Everything Aja. And then if you saw some, some of the, like I said, I have lots of different resources and so forth. Definitely check me out. Everythingaja.com. That's my website. So that's where you can find me there and right here on YouTube at Everything Aja. And I saw somebody in the chat box say, wait, how could I work with you even further? Well, if you head on there, I actually have a teaching program for those that want to take this whole teaching, reading, working smarter, not harder. How do I do it without feeling overwhelmed? I do have a teaching program. I see some of my clients are down below in the chat box. They're like, hey, I used to be a 1 and now I'm a 3. So I would love to work with even more of you guys even further. Hey, Eric.
Aja, hi. Thank you so much. So much value that you shared with us for reading the 5 pillars and how to teach. Reading valuable for teachers and students alike. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And guys, in the description below, please go and check her out on YouTube, Instagram, and especially the course. We can see so many great teachers here saying how much you've helped them. Aja, you're the first person to actually go overtime, which shows me just how much you prepared, how you engage the audience, and also, just all the value you shared with us. So thank you so much.
Thanks you for having me. I was so excited.
I had like a list of questions I wanted to ask you, but I think we'll have to save it for part 2. Anything that you're going to do in the future, or anything that you want to promote, before we go?
Definitely. There's plenty in the future. But I actually really just want to help as much as I possibly can. I know I've shared my YouTube channel. I see the t-shirt. I do have the program. Teaching by Design is very affordable for teachers. It has a full-blown self-study course of how to literally set up systems in reading, like I shared, doing it without being overwhelmed, getting kids to fall in love with reading, but without you being stressed out as well. And so I would love to welcome even, some more teachers that want to take this even a step further. So I'd love to welcome you guys, and that's all down below in the description as well.
I can see many Indonesians. I just came back from Bali. That's why I've got this. And so many great comments. Mansoor, thank you for all the questions and sharing your experience too. Everyone, Aja, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for watching. And tomorrow is the final day of the live streaming festival. We will have Brian talking about writing prompts. Everyone, have a great day. Aja, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Eric. Bye, you guys.